Hey, when I really wanted to have you here on my podcast, Bill, and I really wanted you to like share the value and your experience in sales with all of us in the community. We all know that,
Yeah,
right? We all know that like we need that for sure. So tell me like
yeah,
tell us like who you are, where you're coming from, what you did in your life, and like sales perspective. I don't mind if you want to share the personal stuff as well. So, Jet, stage is yours.
yeah, yeah. Just want to say it was quite a privilege to receive the invite from you. 'Cause I
Appreciate it.
mean, when we were chatting, for me, I'd rather be interviewing you, but I suppose your audience already know who you are. But your background's quite fascinating,
Thank you.
especially with like the background that you had of marketing yourself or speaking with American audiences from a foreign nation from such a young age in those formative years on how to discover things, um, such as like little nuances in conversations and whatever. So, yeah, so for me, being on this end from you is a bit of
Yeah,
an honor for me, in all honesty, I think.
I
So, yeah,
appreciate it.
but my background, let's see. So I'm originally from South Africa, born and raised in Cape Town, just
Okay.
outside of Cape Town. So if you've got any Cape Townian listeners, I'm in a place called Joostenburg Vlakte. As you're heading out the city into the major sort of like farming districts. So I was caught in the middle between farming and city life, where I went to school in the city, but I grew up on a farm or a small holding. So that's a little bit about my background and how I where I came from. I in terms of sales, I've always been selling things. Like when I was selling at school, it was sweet. So basically, we grew up with a lot of the time, but also with very little, a lot of the time. So my dad was an entrepreneur, and he would just get some money in every now and then, and he would splash on things like speedboats and all sorts. And so as a kid, we were always like hit with all this cool stuff. And then at the same time, we were
Yeah.
very limited in cash resources things. So my dad always
Sure.
saved things up in assets and what have you. Um, and yeah, so at school, I never had cash for the tuck shop or for anything else like that. But I had this idea of you could still get things, you see.
Yeah.
Because I was like, we never had cash at home, but we had a speedboat. Or we didn't have cash at home, but we had a couple of sailboats and all sorts of things, right? And so at school, I would sell things to people. So I would go
In your
to the tuck
school.
shop. Yeah. So I had this idea from my dad that you could buy and sell things very, very well, and you could be the master of your income, if that makes sense.
Okay.
And
Your dad
yeah,
was a
so
savage.
yeah, he was an international sportsman before he became a father, so very
Mm.
driven individual. Yeah. And so I'd go to school and I would sell things from the tuck shop. So
Mm.
I'd bunk the class before lunch so I could make sure I was in the front of the queue, and I would just buy things. I'd have like 100 rand, so like $10. I'd have like $10 and I'd buy whatever I could with $10. And then
Yeah.
when that queue was full, I'd go back to the back of the queue to the guys who've just joined and go, hey, do you want this? Do you want that? Do you want the next thing? I'd sell it on a markup because then they're not going to the front of the queue. So immediately I would just create my own demand for something, you see,
Yeah.
because what we've got to realize with anything, right, in conversations with sales and all this kind of stuff is all we need to learn is how to identify a gap. And maybe that's like a gap with an individual. If it's a business idea, identify a gap or a need, right? And then figure out how we can meet that need. So in terms of sales, I tell people what we do is we sell a plan instead of selling a product, sell a plan. So you see the gap and you sell that need, you meet that need, and then you learn how to monetize it.
Sure.
And so using that tuck shop, it was just, nobody wanted to spend 30
Mm.
minutes in a queue because at the
Mm.
end of that 30 minutes, you're going back to class. So
Mm.
I thought, oh gosh, if I can get there, no, if I can remove that queue for people, gosh, get that, put a little markup on top. And that's kind of where I started up in sales. I moved on from that to traveling. Actually, I left school. I bought a one-way ticket to Switzerland. I thought I
Okay.
was going to Sweden.
Okay.
Didn't realize they were different countries because I
Oh
didn't pay
yeah.
attention in class. But I'm at the bottom of South Africa, right? I don't really know where things are in Europe. Like I
Yeah.
probably should have, but I didn't.
Mm.
I'm an idiot. I knew where Namibia was, I knew where Swaziland was, and all of our like immediate
Mm.
countries. But Sweden and Switzerland, I genuinely thought you were a Sweden if you were from Switzerland. I
Yeah.
thought that was what you called, but obviously I realized they're different
Yeah.
countries. So I got a one-way ticket. I landed in Switzerland, and I had all of my accommodation, absolutely everything, booked in Sweden. And only when I got off the plane and started walking around and trying to find the train to where I wanted to go did I realize I'm in the wrong country. And I had no way, I knew nobody. Fortunately, people spoke English, and I had no way of getting back home.
That's right.
Um, yeah, and it was great because it really, that's when I really had to learn how to leverage conversation with people because I had nothing except the voice. I had no assets. I had a rucksack with some clothes in,
Mm.
and I made my way to a scout center. I realized there was a scout center in Switzerland. I was
Mm.
always involved in scouts, and I kind of just started working in the center there, meeting all these people from all over the country that were coming over. And that's where I started backpacking. Essentially, it was from Switzerland. I backpacked quite a bit in Europe, saw loads of different countries, and I would work um, in like a cafe or a hotel or something.
Okay.
Or I'd do any job. At one stage, I cleaned sewers.
Yeah.
The
Absolutely.
chalets that I was in, they were like, "Hey, who wants some extra cash? We got to clean the sewers at the end of the
Mm.
busy season." And yeah, I just you got to be willing to do anything, right? Because I
Yeah.
say a limit on what you will do will be a limit on what you can do, right? And so I learned a lot from doing dirty jobs. I
Yeah.
ended up over in the UK after a while, where my mother was born, and my I got like British ancestry.
Mm.
So I ended up just staying here, working in some sort of I was working in cafes again. At one
Restaurants.
stage,
Hmm.
yeah, restaurants, but like your Starbucks, Cafe
Yeah.
Nero's.
Yeah.
If
Like,
you've heard of Cafe
oh,
Nero,
okay. Now I got it. Yeah.
yeah, it's like a Starbucks. I was just working in a Starbucks, and I remember thinking to myself, "Gosh, this ain't gonna inspire my children." I didn't even have kids. Certainly didn't back then either.
Mm.
But I was like, I wanted to be something inspiring to the point where I'm not inspiring the world. I think this is
Mm.
where a lot of people get lost. They try to inspire the world when
Mm.
actually you need to inspire your world, not the planet or the wider thing. And I think as you start, what I say by your world, I mean your sphere of influence. And when you
Mm.
start looking after your sphere of influence and bringing positive
Mm.
influence towards it, even in just a conversation. Like,
Yeah.
how did we start talking? We were just chatting on a comment, a Facebook comment, I think we
That's right.
started.
Yeah, that's right. We
Yeah.
started speaking in Facebook comments and we built that kind of connection. And I
Mm,
personally DM'd you and we started chatting there, right? And from
yeah.
there, we felt like the energy, the vibe we are transferring to each other is like pretty cool, right? And
Yeah.
from there, we shared value. We started speaking with each other, started talking about stuff, and now we are here. I mean, this is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. But like I said, even in that conversation, I was just, what was it? I think you had originally asked, oh, employment or self-employment. There was that the
Mm,
question, and I love that topic because obviously sales is all about the self-employed, the set your own rate, set your own pace type of thing.
that's right.
Um, And obviously, I've got a very different perspective on that. I just
Yeah.
see it as a different form of income. I don't see one as being better than the next one, and it all depends on where somebody's at. And
Mm.
obviously, just through that chat and through looking after a small bit of influence, that sphere of influence, now we end up talking. Um, so yeah, I was sat there, I was at Cafe Nero, and I was thinking, I don't want to do this forever. I'm not going to inspire children. I'm not going to motivate friends on it. I'm just a fancy barista. I don't even like coffee, but I can make a mean cuppa. I really
Yeah.
can.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I left. I looked at well, basically, I saw a milkman deliver milk one morning, and I thought, gosh, I reckon I could do that for the town. I'd never heard of a thing called a milkman or anything else. And I thought, I'm going to start delivering milk to people's homes. And that's how I started actual sales. I quit my cafe job,
That was a
and
grind. That was like grind on the ground level, like very ground level.
yeah, Do you know how much profit I would make off a bottle of milk?
Yeah, how much?
I'd make 30 cents or 30p profit per bottle of milk. So I had to like really build it. I mean, I didn't realize there
Mm.
were more expensive things to sell at that stage. Um, and I'd do that door to door. I'd go down every street on the neighborhood, knock on the door. If they answered, they answered. That's great. I had like a menu that had like a couple of bottles of milk on and some cheeses. Um,
Mm.
and if they weren't in, I left a glass milk bottle on their doorstep with a message in the bottle sticking out, which was the menu. And I would offer free milk for a week just to get them in, and then set up direct debits, and it would just be automatic after that. So although it was only 30p per milk or per milk bottle, I only had to make that sale once, you see,
Wow.
and then it was progressive after that. So I built that up and built that up to a point where I was turning uh, stupid amounts of milk in a week. I couldn't even begin to tell you the amount, but I would um, basically I built it up to a point where I just couldn't manage it anymore. And I was doing everything myself. I was doing the sales door to door. I was I had an agreement with the farm that I was getting the milk from where I'd come in, I'd pasteurize my own milk using their machinery, chill it, bottle it, label it, put it aside. Then I'd go home and do all the logistics like the accounting, getting all the orders in and all that kind of stuff.
Mm.
I thought of a good upsell from that. I thought, well, what do we have with milk? Oh, well, we
And
have
I'm
cereal
sorry
with
to cut you
milk.
up. How long have you did that?
Yeah. I did that for about 4 years. I built that
4 years.
business.
And I'm sure it taught you a lot, right? Like
Yeah,
patience and practice and actually how to do the business, right? Because you were like a one-man show for pretty much everything and responsible for your own business that you are generating for yourself.
yeah. I think the biggest thing it taught me was I had a pride problem, you
What
know,
problem?
um, a pride problem where
Oh, mm-hmm.
I genuinely thought I could do anything, right? So I grew up on a
Oh,
farm, schooled in the city, and I always thought I was harder than all the rest of the city boys that grew up on a
mm,
farm. And so what I learned from that was because I would work every day, and I only took one day off in 1 year, and that was Christmas Day. Um, and I would get nosebleeds randomly, and I genuinely thought it was just the pollen, but I was working too hard because I was doing too many things. And I think
yeah.
through not getting advice, through thinking I knew how things would happen, that business folded because I
Mm,
didn't know how to hire somebody. So I just thought, I'll just do the work myself, save
yeah.
money paying somebody. You think it's great and all
Yeah.
the next thing. But after 4 years, that business folded. And a couple of years after that, when the lockdown happened, everybody started to get groceries delivered to their door. And I remember looking back in hindsight going, gosh, I really wish I had got a mentor in business.
Mm,
Which is funny because now we work in the world where we sell mentorships.
yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah. And I'd say the biggest failure I ever encountered was not finding a mentor for something.
Mm, at that time, yeah.
Yeah. Mm, mm.
What could have changed if you had a mentor at that time?
If I had a mentor at that time, put it this way, if I was mentoring somebody running a milk thing where I was and all those things that I would make, all those mistakes that I made, I would say the biggest bit of advice I would give me would be learn how to offboard as many tasks as you can, you
Mm,
know. Um, like payments. One thing I did do is I moved everything away from cash onto direct debit. Oh, I
mm,
don't have to go to the bank anymore. Just offset as many things as you can, because ultimately at the end of anything that we're trying to do, especially with business, is really what we're looking for is we're looking for freedom. We always make that joke, oh, I quit my 9 to 5 and now I work 24/7. And that was literally what I did is I left that and I started doing everything myself because I thought, well,
yeah.
if I do it all myself, I'm in
Yeah.
control of when I work or not. And actually the business was in control of me.
Whoa. Yeah,
Yeah.
that could happen, but that's okay. Like that time is gone, and I'm sure you have your own learnings from that too. Tell us a
Mm.
little bit about your remote sales journey, how you get in, and what's going on
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. No, it's brilliant. So after the milk round, I folded that. I just burnt out and I went to do. what I knew I could do, which was just sell things door to door. I ended up selling gas, electricity door to door. I worked for a comparison site, so that was okay. Just got me back into knocking doors and having much longer conversations with people. And I had a great mentor. He taught me a lot about sales. The first thing I learned in sales were, I don't know if you ever learned the 5 steps to a conversation in putting together a script or anything. So that's where I started. 5 steps to conversation: your introduction, short
Okay.
story, your presentation, your close, bit of a consolidation, and that was it. I just learned how to remanufacture that with different people. And the nice thing about the UK was there's every breed of personality there is in existence in the UK, because everybody comes here, you know. So we've got like, we had large Asian communities, so I got to really learn how to sort of tailor myself to Asian communities. There were
Yeah.
massive European communities that I got to cater
Yes.
for. There were American communities, South American communities. Just
Okay.
the UK is a huge melting pot of culture.
Hmm.
And so I got to do all of that, and then through doing all of that, I ended up chatting to a friend about my sales. He was in sales. Lockdown happened. Um, when lockdown happened, I transitioned across to selling insurance about a year before, sorry,
Okay.
selling travel insurance. That
Hmm.
was okay. Moved from an unregulated environment into a regulated environment. Um,
Okay.
and then lockdown happened. No one could travel. And I was chatting to a friend of mine, and he was like, "Hey, you know what? I've just gone into this thing called high ticket closing. Let me introduce you to a friend of mine." And so,
Okay.
yes, for me, I was quite lucky. I didn't even know it existed until somebody opened that door for me. Um,
Mm.
yeah.
I mean, I actually came into remote sales by accident too. In 2020, when
Mm,
COVID hit, I was working from not from home typically, but some days I was working from home as well because I was working in a call center. They were selling cable internet services to US market, right? And
yeah.
that's like $39.99 per month kind of thing. And I didn't knew that
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
and I was not even confident I can charge, I can just tell somebody, hey, the price is $10,000. It's 50K.
Yeah.
I was not able to do that. But
Mm,
in 2020, I was sitting home and I was working for the same company because they shifted us home, right? They gave us the laptop and stuff, and they said, like, just have a calm setup in your own house and work for us. Like, you guys still have work. And we were of
yeah.
course lucky at that time that we had work. People were selling anything on the streets at that time, right? And
Yeah. Yeah.
nobody was, and you remember those days when you actually look outside from the door and there is no one in the street. Literally no one.
Mm.
Yeah. At that time, I applied for a job on LinkedIn. No, on Indeed actually, and I got hired. It was a fitness offer, and I didn't don't even know that.
I also started in fitness with high ticket.
Yeah, that's what I started too. I didn't knew that like it's we call it an offer. I applied for a job, right? I got hired and I started making like good amount of money actually from there. That's where I realized, okay, not living in US and making dollars is possible because I'm working
Yeah.
for the
Yeah.
people from last 10 years on calls and I am not making dollars. They are making dollars and they are giving me the low currency. That's
Mm.
that changed my life. I just quit my job after like few days and I started working on this offer that I was on for from Indeed.
Yeah.
Since
Yeah.
that day I am in a
Ah,
high.
from Indeed, huh?
Yeah, from Indeed. These days, it's not possible. And I'm not saying it's impossible, but there are less chances for like some great opportunities. But it was actually
Yeah.
a great company. It was a great company.
Yeah.
It's still around, but I mean, they haven't shut down. They're still working, but we moved ahead, right? At that time, I started making like $2,000 per month, and I was like, I'm
Hmm.
the king of this universe.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah, I
yeah,
mean
yeah,
that's pretty amazing. And one question I have from you, because you spend your time in UK selling stuff, we heard a lot about in like the UK market, because people they live under the kingdom, right? And their mentality is not entrepreneurship or business stuff like that. They taught
yeah,
to get job, and they taught to go to the school and get job and work for someone to make money, right? And their mentality is not investing in themselves. How would
yeah.
because you've been there, and why I'm asking you is I wanted to talk to somebody who lived there and lived the life, and he or she can tell like how
Mm,
true it is. And what are your thoughts about it? I mean, of course
yeah,
there is money to be made, but we are just talking about mentality right now.
yeah. British mentality. Don't know if you've looked at stats on investing. Britons are what's the phrase? They're like the least investors in the whole of Europe. I don't know the rest of the world, but we are not taught on how to invest in companies. We're actually not even taught it's a thing, you know. Whereas you look at like Americas and what have you, it's quite common that somebody be talking about different shares that they have. It's
Yeah,
culturally common, whether everybody does it or not. In the UK, just the idea of you invest into yourself, it doesn't exist because you do have a system out there that will provide for you. You have a benefit system, or you have a set of provisions that will come to you if you're down and if you're out. You know,
yeah.
I'm from South Africa. I know Sri Lanka. Is there? Yeah, all these kind of places. We don't have a plan B. You know, if you're going
Mm,
hungry, nobody else really cares. Like yes, cool. There's loads of charities and stuff out there, but there's no sort of nationwide organization specifically created for their citizens to that would help them stay afloat, right?
mm.
And so we see that a lot in the UK. But what I find selling to people in the UK is almost the way that I kind of mind trick myself, because I sell more to Britons than any other.
Yeah,
But a lot of Australians, I sell a lot to
yeah.
Australians for some reason. We just get a lot of them in our pipes, and some Americans, which is usually it's the opposite way around. You usually have a lot more Americans.
Hmm.
But I'm working for a Singaporean country right now, targeting specifically Europe. See, and I trick my mind into um, I've never told anybody this out loud, right? I pity them. Now, I don't pity them as in looking down at them. I just look at them as if they are in desperate need for a change.
Damn.
The um, but with the sort of with a lot of empathy. So I'm emotionally attached to that need of change for them. Okay,
Okay.
and so I genuinely look at people like, oh my word, you need a change, but I
Okay.
need to believe that, and I need to look at them if they do, and then I come from a point of support for that change to happen.
Hmm.
Okay, so that's a leadership thing. So it's like a servant leadership approach where most leadership out there that exists is from the top down. My leadership approach is if I'm leading somebody, I started this with like when I worked in cafes and bars. My job as the manager on one shift was to make sure all of my employees, all the employees for the business, had everything they needed to do their job. And if they weren't doing their job right, it was my fault, you
Hmm.
know. If and then if I myself make sure I'm doing everything I can for them, and then they're not performing, only then is it their fault. And I bring that same mentality to selling to Britons, where
Hmm.
it's a very supportive way of selling, you see,
Yeah.
because this is what they're used to. They're used to that support. You see, they're
Yeah.
used to an outside force caring for them instead of them caring for themselves. Now,
Okay.
culturally,
Okay.
whether they realize it or not, that's what happens, right?
Okay.
And so when I'm selling, I'm coming from that point of going, I'm here to support you, to help you achieve what we all have been able to achieve for other people.
Hmm.
you see. And then, especially when it comes to finances, how can I help you understand how to afford it? You see, and that's very different to an American way of selling, where you would have
Mm.
overturns and you turn and go, oh, you got to want it, or you cover all of that. If you're a good salesperson, you cover all of that right at the beginning with all of your preemptive strikes. You attack all the negatives before they get to you, and by the end of it, there shouldn't be any overturns, right? But
Yeah,
still,
that's right.
the yeah, but the value to the Americans is almost like, oh, that is valuable. I want it. You see, whereas with Britons, it's almost like you are valuable. You want it. How can I help you get it?
Okay.
You see, and I find that that approach has probably been the best way that I could sell. But it's also because I can put myself into the shoes of a Briton. I know
Yeah.
what it's like to because I've knocked so many doors.
Yeah, because
I did.
even
I
your
sold
mom is
gas,
from there,
electricity.
so you better know that already.
Yeah, you got to know your culture. You got to know the
Yeah, you
people
got to
that
know your
you're doing because
culture.
then
Yeah, of
it's
course.
relatable.
I
Yeah,
mean, if
because
you talk about us, like they ruled us for 200 years, all
yeah,
all around. Yeah. So I mean, their roots are still there, right? People still think like them. People are still like,
mm,
okay, you have to go to the school, you have to go to the college, university, you got to get the degree, you got to get a job, and you got to work rest of your life like this, right? But now,
yeah,
after the social media and a lot of different things, it's changing as well, right? So,
yeah,
and after speaking with you, because you spent some time in Switzerland and in UK, in Cape Town,
mm,
that's where you are, right? What I understand is that's exactly I wanted to hear when I said like um, stuff about selling to UK market, right? And
yeah,
why that's
yeah,
like talk of the bubble we are in, right? And
mm, mm,
this was actually a good answer. Thank you. I appreciate it. And I know
yeah.
a lot of people will come back to this part and will listen to it because this is valuable.
Ah, I hope they do.
Yeah. And hey, what a
Yeah,
personality you are. I mean, look at your smile,
thanks.
man. I mean, that's awesome. That's amazing. I love talking to you and the information you shared, your journey and everything. That was like that's already making you irresistible to sell for.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
amazing speaking with you, my man. And I'm sure everybody wanted to hear this too as well.
yeah. I would say if anybody is selling to a British market, any market really, but specifically British, when we're doing our investigation stage, so that bit just after the introduction, we want to gather information of somebody. We're asking
Yeah.
questions. What did you took the call? What are you facing right now? Whatever style of selling, whether it's gap selling or heaven or hell, all this kind of stuff. I
Hmm.
don't even know what they
Hmm.
are, to be fair. I
Hmm.
just read books. But I'm like, but in that bit where we're trying to gather information from somebody,
Hmm.
shift your perspective because what I see so much out there in sales is we're trying to find information. Like if I'm chatting to you and I'm selling something to you, I'm looking at you and I'm going, what information can I get out of you that I can then leverage so that you will see things the way I do to buy
Hmm.
the things that I have value of, right? So um, right now I sell a forex mentorship, and so well, that's one of the things I do a few things, but with a forex mentorship, what I'll be looking at is when I'm investigating you, I'm
Hmm.
finding out how can I help you get
Hmm.
what I'm looking for, right?
Okay.
So if I already knew the value of it and I'm in your shoes, that's where I want to get to is almost going, if I'm in your shoes, I'm already going to assume you would know the value, even though I haven't presented it yet. You see, but
Hmm.
it's that perspective, it's that intention right from the beginning, from the moment I start my investigation. I'm looking at you, going, how am I going to help you in your situation to get what I've got?
Yeah.
Right? I'm just going to
Yeah.
assume you know the value I have it, because if I have to convince somebody about the value that I have, it goes unsaid, right? A lot of people comment on me on the way that I love my wife. As a little personal side, I love my wife more than I
So
love
much. Yeah.
chocolate or anything, right?
I
I'm
saw
smitten
your
by her.
pictures. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm totally smitten by her, right? I don't need to tell anybody how valuable my wife is. They just see how much I love her, and they know nothing about what she does. She does everything perfect for the everybody who is listening. She never does anything wrong. No, just makes, but that's the things we sell products as high ticket closes, and we have this idea that we have to try and convince somebody about the value of it. We need to shift that. They are on the call because they can see some value in it. Show them that you are already confident in the value. Your
Absolutely.
job is just to help them get to that point. You sell the plan. Don't sell the product. The product sells itself. If the product doesn't sell itself, find another client because there are so many products out there that sell themselves.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And what I understand is sometimes people buy from the people they like and the trust, and
Mm,
sometimes they don't like you, they don't like
mm,
the product you have, and or they don't trust in or they're like they're not trusting the process that you are presenting because they're confused and they cannot buy when they're confused, right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
that's exactly like a lot of times it's not really I've seen a lot of mentors of mine selling some very generic stuff and they're selling for a very high ticket price, right?
yeah.
But they just know how to say things and they're manipulating with the words and they're selling. And I'm saying they're my ex-mentors, right?
Mm,
So
mm,
on whatever you said is like find a product that sells itself could be right as well. But in some cases, you just really need to sit down with them and help them to get there where they want to be. Because one of my current mentor, he said, everything you want is on the other side of what they want,
mm,
right?
mm,
So once you help them get there, you eventually you will be there where you want to be. You will
mm,
get what you want to get from them. It's just
mm,
like
mm,
it's just like when you network with other people and you just help them, right? They need any
mm,
help. You're just helping them. And when they know you, Vince is an expert. He's good at sales. He's good at business. He know financing. He didn't know marketing. Whenever any business owner or any other person would need somebody who can help, the first name will come to their mind is Vince, right?
mm.
So yeah, that's my perspective about that too. Does that sound okay? Is it
Yeah,
conflicting or that's pretty much the
I
same?
think I'm misrepresenting what I'm saying. I'm not saying
Okay.
like we wouldn't need to explain the value of something. It's just the whole, like I said, mindset is everything, right? What you don't say says everything, right? So if I'm walking in expecting to wrestle and show the value of a product, you've lost it. Okay. As a salesperson, you should inherently encompass the value of the product that you're doing.
Mm,
Okay.
that's
Because if
true.
you're convincing them, I think you're still convincing yourself,
Yeah,
right? If you
that's right.
firmly believe in the product that you're selling, and you can
Yeah,
believe in anything, it all comes to how you treat it, right?
yeah.
I could sell anything, and I don't say that to blow myself up in any way. I can sell
Mhm.
anything because I genuinely learn to love everything,
Yeah.
right? Learn to love your employer or your the client, the offer owner. Love them, genuinely love them, right? Genuinely love them, love their product. And when you're chatting to their prospects, that genuine love for the product for the client will come across. Okay.
Mm,
Because I think a lot of the time where that trust is lost is okay, so John Balfour, he writes about the three trusts, right? Trust the company, trust person that they're chatting to, and trust the product that they're selling. Okay. I think people lose trust in those things because as the salesperson, we've lost trust in them.
that's
As a
right.
salesperson, we don't trust the employer. Or
That's right.
your first month on a gig, is this really going to work out?
Yeah. Yep.
Who sent my invoice? Are they really going to pay me?
Yeah.
That happens, and you don't get paid.
That's right.
Been there. So the thing is, you've got to genuinely love and believe in the product and the offer owner that you are working for. And if
Yeah.
you've got that, that's 98% of the problem solved. You see,
And
because
Vince,
people
I
will get
agree
that.
to this. Why?
Mm.
Because I I work with Dan Henry as well. He's like an entrepreneur. I'm not sure you know him or not. He done like $32 million through webinars
Wow.
only, right? A lot of people already know him, like him, and trust him, right? And
Uh-huh.
whenever I go on calls, like there were a lot of times his offers varies like 10K, 25K, 50K. That's the offer they're
Hmm.
selling, right? So I've been following him from 2016. I learned a lot from him. I was a raving fan.
Wow.
I got hired. I love him so much as a person, right? Now we are like sharing the same belief system as well, right? And when I talk about him to the prospects, it's just like he is talking to them, right?
Yeah.
And my conviction to him and his process is like
Yeah.
on the top level, 100% level, right? And that exactly what you said, and I agree to that as well.
Yeah.
And lastly, again, I would appreciate your presence here, and I love chatting with you, my man.
Thanks.
Thank you, man. Thank you. It was
Yeah.
amazing talking, and we'll see you soon.
Okay.
All right, great. Thank you.